Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Invisible Condition. It's not all in your head. I'm your host, Jeff Pearson, and we created this show for you because we wanted everybody with an invisible condition, no matter what that is, to know beyond the shadow of a doubt that you have a voice, you have a community, and you are not alone. So, to that end, I have an amazing guest today. And you might recognize her from a previous show just a little while ago when she was on with another guest, Zach. But she's on her own today. It's going to be awesome. And by the way, happy Black Friday for anybody that finds that day to be happy. That day to me is kind of terrifying. I stay indoors away from the malls on that day, but I like Cyber Monday myself, but happy Black Friday, everybody. So my guest today is Stephanie Simoes, and she's an entrepreneur, a wife, a mom of 5 children, which is awesome. Due to a rarely diagnosed medical condition that has affected her children, her focus is a healthy environment, sunshine, animal therapy, and healthy foods. I love that. Animal therapy, that's cool. We're going to talk about that because that's really cool. Stephanie and her husband have founded New Heights Homestead, a mountaintop homestead in West Virginia. Stephanie's love for animals and a mission to provide the healthiest lifestyle for her children has driven the quest to establish this homestead. Stephanie has also used One Hope Wine as a platform to raise awareness and donation for PANDAS network, among other things. I mean, tons of other stuff. In fact, our nonprofit Hydro with Hope, she was gracious enough to help us do some fundraising in November here of 2023. So we are so grateful. And so for the last few years, as the condition has directly impacted her children, of course, that she's fundraising for PANDAS as well. I'm so excited to have her here. Welcome, Stephanie. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, and thank you so much, Jeff, for having me back. I'm so glad to be here.
Absolutely. After we met and after Zach introduced us and after we did the episode with him and you and actually 2 of them, we've done a couple this month, and it's just I feel like it was just instant. Like
I feel like we all clicked.
we gotta hang out more. So and so I said, well, yeah. And then of course we found out about this invisible condition that your family is living with, and I said, well, good Lord, you've had us on the show. We gotta do the same thing. Let's do it. So tell us about your first experience with a child dealing with. Well, first of all, let's talk about PANDAS for a second.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. So tell everybody what PANDAS is.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm happy to totally dive in on this. So first, I will just say that I'm going to mention PANDAS Network. I am in no way affiliated with them. I do fundraise for them because I am passionate about the cause, nor am I a medical professional. So I just want to put that out there. So none of what I'm about to say is, any medical advice. Yeah. However, I do feel strongly as a parent who had experience in working with children for several years, prior to myself having any children, prior to the initial onset of PANS in my children. I just feel like it's really important to speak about our experience. I always say that if our story can help and reach even just one other family to get to treatment and resources faster, then it's all worth it. But what's PANDAS or PANS? And I'm going to give you the direct definition just from the PANDAS Network website, and then I'll kind of roll into exactly what our experience was. So PANDAS is a pediatric autoimmune neuropsychiatric disorder associated with streptococcal infections, strep. And PANS is pediatric acute onset neuropsychiatric syndrome. These occur after an infection, most commonly a strep infection. However, current research indicates that other bacterial, viral, or environmental irritants can also cause persistent symptoms. A child's immune system misdirects its response, and the reaction causes a process of inflammation to occur in the brain. Symptoms can vary from child to child. But their website states that the onset is sudden and dramatic. So it's described as a rare neuroinflammatory disease. And I know you're really familiar, Jeff, with neuro stuff. So I wonder, how you process some of what I'm about to share today. I know a lot of people refer to it being rare. I don't agree with that because it's just rarely diagnosed. It's at least 1 in 200 children.
Wow.
And
that's not rare at all. 1 in 200, is that what you said?
1 in 200. So when people refer to it being rare, I'm like, I think, and this is me now, I think PANDAS being just strep induced is more rare than PANS. In our experience, my children had more than just strep as a trigger to their initial flare. So
just out of curiosity, so you just to clarify for my own brain.
Yeah,
it is something where something that is so simple for most people, it just, you get strep throat. I mean, it sucks. Nobody wants strep throat, but you get strep, or you get, and most people, you maybe you get some antibiotics, or you do some whatever at a home remedy thing, and then you're done and you move on. But with PANS or PANDAS, it's strep is kind of sends you down a rabbit hole of mental, physiological things with the brain. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah. So,
okay.
Diana with Pandas Network actually refers to it as kind of, what's the word she uses? An allergy to strep. And, some kids have the allergy and some kids don't.
Wow.
And so, so these kids tend to need antibiotics for a longer period of time to clear up something like a strep infection, and sometimes more extensive therapies. But I'm happy to kind of dive into our journey and what we saw, so you can kind of see from where we started and where we are now.
Oh, I'm dying to do that. I'm wondering, you sent me a video, Rebecca's Pandas story. Would that be, when would be a good time to do that? I mean, would that be like more of an introductory thing we could do now and then dive into yours, or what would be the best timing on that?
It's up to you. If you want to maybe do it later in the show, if you do have a gap or a commercial break around a later time, just so they can kind of hear. I think that there are similarities and differences. It's funny because you go onto some of these pages on social media with other parents that have children with PANDAS and PANS, and you read their stories and their struggles. And it's almost like there was a time when I would read these things and I'd be like, wow, I feel like they're living in my house. But at the same time, there are some things that are a little bit different in children too. So I think it's kind of,
let's dive into your story then, and we'll play that later then. That's good. Perfect.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah,
so so we had moved up to Pennsylvania from New Jersey, in hopes of eventually finding some more space. My husband and I have known each other for a long time. That was kind of a goal from before children, right? So we moved up here. Our business had still been in New Jersey. So my husband was there 5-6 days a week and would come home 1 or 2 days a week. And now I had really small kids. I was still working in Jersey 2, sometimes 3 days a week. So the kids would go to preschool, and I'd hit the highway and go to work, come back, pick them up. They were little at the time. So we're going back to when my oldest was 4, almost 5. And then I had twins that were 3, boy, girl twins. So really close in age. Yes, I had 3 kids under the age of 2 at one time, which was insanity. And I would say, normal routine for that child that age. I don't like that word normal, but, would go to school, thrived in school. He actually had the same teacher 2 years in a row. She was actually the owner of the building. He participated. He loved school. He loved being there. And I'm really grateful that we had that group of teachers and that structure when we did, because when everything kind of went south very quickly, they were kind of like my backup and my sanity, where they were like, nope, you're on the right track. No, like, we're seeing this too. And it really helped me break through the barriers with some of the doctors, and we were doctors all the time, and
Yeah.
we weren't getting answers as quickly as we wanted. So he was 4, my older one, almost 5, and I can tell you the day, mid-January, almost 8 years ago, that something switched. Like, he went to bed, one child woke up with all these symptoms that we couldn't figure out what was going on. And coming from a background of working with children, I was just baffled. I was like, wait,
Yeah.
what's happening? I started keeping notes. And that's why I love your journal so much, Jeff, for hydro, because I started keeping notes anywhere I could. The school started keeping notes. Some of the things that we experienced pretty quickly were all different kinds of tics. Throat clearing he did for a long time. Eye blinking went on for a long time. And some of these symptoms that I'm going to mention kind of came and went. That's the best way I could describe it. He didn't present all these things all the time, but you knew that something was definitely off. OCD, the way he played with toys had to be in a very particular way all of a sudden. I remember a Lego set that he had here that he had to fix it just right. And then before he went to bed, he needed to see me put it all the way on the top shelf so he knew nobody could touch it while he wasn't watching it, which was very strange. I think, one of the things for me that really made me push with urgency to get in front of more doctors more quickly was the brain fog that he was experiencing. Not remembering how to write his name all of a sudden. Suddenly, he knew the T, and he couldn't remember the rest. And his handwriting also became a bit distorted at the same time, where he would write the T and then kind of look up at whoever, was in front of him, his teacher or whatever, because he couldn't remember anymore after that. And that would also kind of come and go. There was a day that he couldn't remember people's names, people that he knows, our neighbor who he knows and sees all the time. He started to describe her to me instead of saying just her name. And I was like, man, what's going on? I at this point, when these things started happening, I was pushing with his pediatrician. Like, I am scared to put him to sleep. Something, I knew it was neurological, didn't know what it was. Is he having absent seizures and I'm not recognizing them? He would kind of go into a blank stare sometimes and we didn't know what was going on. At school, his mat number for his rest time, their nap time, was the same for 2 years. He couldn't remember his mat number all of a sudden. Bedtime became a challenge. He was scared to go to bed. He would talk about red eyes being in the closet. And now I understand, kids go through the monster under the bed syndrome. So that's why I think sometimes when people look at these symptoms individually, it looks like, he's a 4-year-old. He's scared to go to bed. He watched something that scared him and there's monsters under the bed. No, but hallucinating is something that does happen to some of these children. And so for a little while there, he was going, the red eyes in the closet, the red eyes in the closet. And my husband, not being home so often, kind of heard these things. And he's like, Mr. Fix-It. He's a contractor. So he's like, I'll put up a new closet door when I get home so he can't see through the closet. And I'm like, okay, that's a Band-Aid for now.
Yeah.
It's not solving the problem really, but okay.
He just can't see the red eyes in the closet. Yeah. He still knows they're there. Yeah.
Right. So, car rides became really hard. Sitting still became really, really hard. I mean, that's something we still struggle with today, is that he's fidgety. It's hard for him to sit still. A lot of these kids actually pull back on eating. Some even begin to think that the food is poison and they refuse to eat it. And in those cases, those kids could end up getting hospitalized and stuff.
Yeah.
We kind of had, and I don't hear about this often at all, we kind of had the reverse effect where he started excessively eating, almost like where he never feels full. We had gone out as a family. I think it was for Valentine's Day or something. We had gone to hibachi, all of us. The kids ate like crazy. You sit down for hibachi, they're feeding you like crazy. And the place was like, I don't know, 30, 35 minutes from our house. We went out to eat, got in the car, we're on our way home, and he starts hysterically crying about being starving. I'm so hungry. I have to eat before I go to sleep. And that's when I knew something was up with that, because we had just eaten all that food and we're on our way home, and now he's hysterical in the car. That night we had to give him a bowl of cereal before he went to bed, because he would just refuse to even try to go to sleep without that. But that's when I was like, man, we just really need to figure this out. So those are some of the things initially that we kind of saw.
Well, and man, a lot of those sound kind of familiar to me. Not all of them, but some of the, like the tics and some of the OCD stuff, and some of the, because I have some of that too. Some of the tics and some of the OCD tendencies, and some of but from the brain surgeries that I've had, but a lot of those tics have been around since I was a kid, and so a lot of people don't even notice them anymore. And so, like my wife, I mean, we've known each other for so long, she doesn't even see them anymore. Yeah. And but it was gradual, and it was from the beginning, and it was so it's like, okay, that's fine. So, but when there's a sudden change like that's almost a blessing in disguise, almost, because if it had been gradual, maybe it would have been tougher to catch on to it. I don't know. But just to wake up one morning and all of a sudden all of this is different.
Yeah. It was like, where's my kid? It was right. It was scary.
Scary, but I get it. Yeah.
I don't believe that all of the situations are that acute onset that they describe, though, with this being abrupt, because I will share that my younger two had more of a gradual onset with this, where if I wasn't looking for it, if I didn't, already have this experience, I may not have noticed right away. But for example, so I have boy-girl twins. So my son started with tics, all kinds of facial tics. He happened to have a different strain of strep than my older one did, which we had him treated for, among other things. So they're all my kids are PANS, not PANDAS, because there was strep and other, influences that kind of set them off. Okay. My daughter had chronic ear infections for a long time. And, anytime she would get a head cold, it would turn into an ear infection. And it got to the point where we had, within a year and a half, 9 ear infections. And I was finally like, is somebody going to tell me to put tubes in her ears? Because I think she needs them. Right.
Can I tell them she needs tubes in her ears? Right? Is that allowed? Can I?
Well, what we found was when she would get sick, she eventually started ticking. Some with eye blinking. We went through eye blinking for a while. And then we also had a period of time where not only was she eye blinking, but she'd occasionally stretch out her arms like this and like roll her wrists. And so she would get a head cold, then that would develop an ear infection. Well, what happens then? They go on antibiotics. And when she went on antibiotics with that arm rolling tic, in I think it was 3 days, the tic was gone. I was like, classic PANS to me, that the tic's suddenly gone, now that she's been treated with antibiotics. So eventually, they were kind of on the same track with the same specialist as my older son, milder. And we kept everything like as a family, like all the changes we made for my older son were for all of us, over time. diet changes that we made, and I think I took this a little extreme, but we did it slowly where, I haven't bought meat from a grocery store in 7 years. We use local farms, farm fresh eggs, fresh raw milk from a local farm. Like, I feel like those things, and fresh produce too, lots of fresh produce in their diet. Those things really, at least when everything else was falling apart around me, I felt like if I can control their diet, one thing, then not only are they going to be healthier, it's not going to hurt them, but it may help control the other things that are going on around us. Right. Totally. In the past, I've worked with special needs, in my past experiences, and, red dyes and things like that get brought up a lot. So it was really like reduce sugar as much as possible, and try to clean up their diet as much as we could. Totally.
So I'm going to just throw this out there. I'm going to throw this out there, and then we're going to go to a break for a minute.
Yeah.
But anyone out there with issues, with children that are having issues like this, if this sounds familiar to you, if you're having, and you just couldn't put your finger on it, couldn't figure it out, and you're racking your brain, and this is sounding familiar, reach out. We don't need specifics or anything, but reach out. You could comment on the show if you're watching on Facebook, on YouTube, on wherever. Stephanie will have contact info for her. In fact, we're going to do that after the break. We're going to have it scrolling across. We're going to put her link tree up there so you can reach out to her, so you can communicate with her, questions, whatever, because this is a big deal, and you want to be able to catch it. So and figure out what the heck's going on as soon as humanly possible. So we'll do that at the end of the beginning of the second segment, and then we're gonna talk some more about the story and kind of how they dealt with it, and how they are doing it now, and how they've been helping. So all right, we're gonna go to a break. We will see you guys in just a minute.
Hi, I'm Jake, co-founder and CEO of One Hope. My friends and I started this company in 2007 out of the back of this truck on a mission to enrich people's lives through wine.
Today, we've grown into a state-of-the-art Napa Valley winery that proudly houses a portfolio of award-winning wines which have touched lives through over 40,000 nonprofits at home and around the globe. And it's happening every day. Being rooted in local communities and contributing to initiatives that uplift neighborhoods, celebrate cultures, and promote community. It's what got us here. You see, through every bottle sold, your purchase can make a direct impact on the causes you care about. One Hope's cause of choice has given back over $10 million and counting. We believe that good health is the foundation of a fulfilling life. And so we've contributed to programs like Ole Health, providing over 1,200 Napa farm workers and their families with medical assistance and access to quality care. We empower education because it's a potent catalyst for change. Through partnerships with institutions like Pencils of Promise, we've built 3 schools that provide opportunities for learning and personal growth. Water is a fundamental human right, yet millions lack access to this basic necessity. By channeling our resources towards water projects like Charity Water, we've provided over 80,000 people with clean water as we aim to quench not only physical thirst, but also the thirst for a better life. Because water changes everything. The battle against hunger is a collective one. We collaborate with food banks, shelters, and organizations dedicated to eradicating hunger. And to date, we've served over 3 million meals through Why Hunger. With hearts as rich as the soil and spirits as persistent as the vine, purpose becomes more than a word. It becomes a way of life. Welcome to One Hope, where we sip for change and savor the difference.
Hey friends, this is Ben Hummel. I'm the host of the Genius Way Show, where you'll learn to access your inner gifts, talents, and callings, and how to express them out in the world. Join me here each Sunday at noon Pacific time on the Achieve TV network, right here on E360 TV.
All right, welcome back, everybody. By the way, One Hope is something that Stephanie is involved in. She works with them, and they are an amazing fundraising organization that we have actually been honored and privileged to be a part of this month during November with Hydro with Hope. So if anybody and with Pandas organizations and different, like anything, if you have a nonprofit, she is a wonderful person to talk to fundraising wise. So reach out to her. We're going to put her link tree up here during this segment, and you can use that to contact her and get in on that, because it's pretty awesome. So
no, thank you for that, Jeff. We're so
absolutely
happy to have Hydro with Hope this month. And it's true, I've used this platform for like 3.5 years now to really raise awareness for pandas and pans and donations for Pandas Network, but really to be able to connect with great people like you that have foundations that really need the support and that extra word out. So it's been a really great journey.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It's been so cool. And I know it was kind of last minute. I know Zach was calling me like that morning on the first, going, "Hey, you want to do this or what? Are we doing this or what? Are we?" And so I felt like it was but it's been a fun month. It's been good. So it's pretty cool. So what you guys are doing is amazing. Keep up the good work. So
he's a great guy, and we're a great team, and we get to work with awesome foundations like yours. So it's cool. A win-win.
Totally. I appreciate that. So let's see, where were we? We were talking about so as far as pans, because that's what your children are more pans, not pandas, right? Is that the
so Pandas is just strep induced, and right. Pans is when any other infection basically can trigger your child into what we call a flare. So the way I try to describe it is, if you have this child that's immune suppressed, right? And they get hit over and over and over with environmental things, maybe seasonal allergies, maybe mold. Sometimes there's mold in the home and people don't know, strep infection, like all these things, eventually their bodies are like thrown into overload. And that's when, the way I describe it is the infection travels and it causes brain inflammation, and it affects that area of the brain that causes these tics, the OCD, the brain fog, all those things that, we were discussing. One of the things I didn't mention was we had a huge decline in potty training when that all happened. And for a child that was potty trained from 2.5 to now almost 5, and you're sliding back with potty training, that was huge red flag to me, with regression of skills. Their teachers did a really great job with documenting things for me, because there were things that he knew and skills that he knew that all of a sudden he would look at the worksheet like he had no idea where to start. And I remember having a conversation with someone at the school, and they were like, just be careful when you're going to these doctors they're brand new to you, because what you're about to share sounds kind of crazy, and we just don't want them to think like, here, take the journal from us, so you have that as well. So it's not just the parent's perspective, but also, the teacher's perspective. So I'm so grateful for them for that, because it was, if you're all of a sudden going to doctors that have never seen your child before, they don't know what was before this sudden, onset with all these symptoms.
Yeah. Well, and that speaks very highly of the teachers as well that are paying attention, and they're I don't know if is it kind of a smaller school with smaller classes, or is it
smaller preschool, a private one? Yeah, they were little at the time.
So that makes a big difference too, because if you're in a bigger class with a bigger group, and it's, maybe it's, I mean, not all preschools are created equal. Let's be real, So if you're in one that's a little less attentive to that kind of stuff, this might, it might have been a different story. But that's very cool that they provided that for you and let you know about all that.
At the time, over 30 years of experience with that age group. So, and she had never seen such a drastic change in this way before. So
wow.
We were both losing sleep at night, and we'd come in the next day and she'd be like, I was looking this up and I'm, so grateful for that, because in today's day and age, it's very difficult for a teacher to come to a parent and say, hey, listen, and I mean, I believe in the public school system. They're not allowed to say anything unless you bring it.
Depending on the thing. Yeah, it's really touchy. It's gotten ridiculous, honestly.
So I mean, I appreciated it so much. I saw it as support. And I try to even still today keep an ongoing open communication with my kids' teachers. Like, let's prepare for the worst, hope for the best. Let me know how we can support each other just to make things go smoothly, for them. So we saw so many doctors in a short amount of time. And I felt like it was like brick wall after brick wall. Like, his teacher would actually say, call me after that appointment. Let me know how it goes. And I remember going to see a neurologist, and I brought over 3 typed pages of symptoms that I had been experiencing. And just so I wouldn't forget what was going on, like different scenarios, different things I was seeing, dates next to them, presenting to them what the school was seeing. And her response was, so do you want to medicate him for the tics today? And I was like, but what's causing the tics? I don't want to talk about medication until I understand what is causing everything that I just described to you. Those were the kinds of responses we were getting.
What kills me is that is the response I've gotten over the years too. It's like, what is causing this? And they look at you with now, not all medical professionals are created equal either, right? So some of them are amazing, and some of them will dive into it with you and whatever. But for the most part, it's more like they look at you like deer in the headlights and say, causing it. Right. I don't know how to find that out. I do know a pill that will cover up the symptoms and mask it, and it's like you can pretend he doesn't have it, and that drives me crazy. So I'm glad there's more people out there that are really digging in and like pressing them, like, what's the cause here?
I remember, because our pediatrician saw us a lot, and he had recommended we go see a neurodevelopmental specialist. Okay, they had a 12-month wait list. Well, he was pushing and taking our case, and we got in a few weeks, kind of as an emergency. Spent a few hours with him for him to write a report where he didn't believe it was an abrupt onset, and it said it in the report that, he wasn't sure that development was quote unquote normal before he saw the child. But, if we want him to medicate him to function in a school setting, then he'd be glad to do that. As long as his labs come back okay, we're good to go with that plan. And I was just like, what?
It's almost like you've given up at that point, It's like, okay, just put him on a pill, It's like, no.
And I think a lot of parents do. And that's why I really want this to reach more people, because I think that it's not the doctor's fault. It's just how they were trained. And I think that there's just such a lack of education around bridging that gap with mental health and actual infection, and like the medical community, and finding that happy medium, because some of these things could look like a mental health condition.
Well, and it's not always it's not the parents' fault either to think that direction either, because it's what we've been conditioned to think. If there's a condition, if it's a chronic thing, you take a medication to manage it, right? And and that's not that. that's been so driven into us over the last, several decades that we just don't question it unless something really happens that makes you question it. And so I'm so glad that this is getting out, because hopefully this will help some other parents watching this question that and go, wait a second, that's another option,
Right. Yeah. And, the thing that we found is that there's just a lack of doctors who see and successfully treat this. If you're questioning or want to look a little further, there are lots of resources on pandasnetwork.org. They have a list of approved doctors there that have seen this, treated this. But to be honest, across the country, there's not many. There's a much more of a demand than there is doctors to be able to treat. Many don't accept insurance. Insurance doesn't want to cover in many cases because of the time it takes to really dive deep. It's not a one size fits all kind of diagnosis. All three of my kids had different lab work that came back different, and they're in the same house.
No. Well, and that's the thing, you have to find somebody that's willing to work with you and figure it out and not just rely on what they learned in med school, because really that's like the baseline knowledge. And then when they get into the marketplace, that's when their real education starts, I feel like, and then they're really learning about the different things that weren't covered in med school, and so to find one that's actually listening and being able to explore this with you is phenomenal.
Yeah, for sure. So we definitely went through a really rough period of time. Everything was out of pocket, for different testing, different, appointments and things. I know I shared with you that we wanted more space, more farm space, all of that stuff. So this definitely put like a sideswipe on that for a while. It's been 13 years to get to this point, from when we really wanted to purchase property to almost 8 years of this journey, which I am grateful and thankful that we are where we are today. My younger two have been symptom free for some time. I knock on wood when saying that, because I don't think that, I know one of your questions as we were chatting, Jeff, was like, is there a cure? I don't want to call it cure, but I do think that there are children that manage it in a way where the symptoms have not presented for a long time. So I look forward to that now with my oldest. I know my daughter, I found that puberty really helped her, and I'm hoping that we find the same with my older one. So that kind of answers that.
And that's kind of the cool part about, this is where I drive this home with people all the time, because that's the definition of a condition, right? It's you're managing it and you're living with it every day for the rest of your life. It's not a disease. It's not like to use your example, strep, is kind of a disease that you can take an antibiotic or whatever, and it's like diagnosis, treatment, done, and you move on, and it's not there anymore. A condition is there forever. You just, and it's management and figuring out ways to kind of like the rock in the river, kind of live around it, and so that's what a lot of people don't understand. And so that's why this is important to talk about. But so we're going to go to one more break real quick. And I have a video that I wanted to play, but I don't want to take, maybe we'll put it in the comments on the day that this airs. We'll put this, we'll put it in the comments or something, because it's about a 4-minute video, and I feel like we still have some things to talk about, and I don't want to take up 4 minutes of precious airtime with a video. I'm sorry, but but it's an amazing video, and I definitely it'll be in the show notes. But let's go to one last break real quick, and then we'll come back and we'll dive into why in the midst of all this, why there's still hope, because that's the most important thing. I mean, if you don't have hope, you're dead in the water already. I mean, honestly, with
Right.
any condition. So let's go to this last break, and then we'll talk about that, and we'll see you soon.
The Club eFit Home Portable Gym System is a groundbreaking new system that can help everyone at any fitness level. You can be the happy, fit person you always wanted to be, and Club eFit can make that happen by helping you get the body you deserve in the time you can spare. With workouts ranging from cardio, core, to total body toning, it's easy to get started. Start taking care of you today. To make the change, go to clubefit.com now.
Welcome back, everybody. This is that always baffles me how fast the time goes. And so
I feel like we just started.
I know. I feel like we need to do like a 2-hour show with with some guests, because it's like there's just so much to talk about and so much to cover. So but I want to make this an opportunity for you too, though. But is there anything else that you wanted to touch on before we get to some of the stuff in the last segment about any organizations that you've found beneficial, or anything that you would if there was somebody that just found out about this and they said, oh my gosh, what do I do? What would you tell them? That kind of stuff.
If they're seeing a few of these symptoms with their child, usually it's 3 or more of these symptoms. I would definitely check out the resources at pandasnetwork.org. On social media, on Facebook, there are lots of parent support groups on there. There's usually one for your specific area. Join a bunch of those groups. I got so much information, and recommendations through there. And I would say, if you really feel strongly that this is what's affecting your child, get lab work drawn as soon as possible by someone who understands PANDAS and PANS, because what they're going to draw is not going to be the same thing that your pediatrician is going to pull. It's a lot more, in depth, and they'll know how to read those results better too. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, that's awesome. Because if you, I can attest to that. It took me 2 years to get the surgery I was telling them I needed, in high school, because the neurosurgeon and the people that we were seeing was like, nah, and so you got to get in front of the right person. That's helpful. So yes, definitely
have to be your own advocate with.
Oh my
with
gosh. Yeah,
for sure.
100%. And I'm sure there's that site, the website that you just talked about has probably places. I've not been to the website, but I'm sure there's places on there where you can find people that can, like practitioners and stuff, right, in your area, kind of thing.
Yep.
So,
resources for your child's school, so that they understand and are on board. Doctors, sorted by your state that you're in. I know Pandas Network is even working with doctors overseas too, in Europe. So, they're doing great work over there. I'm thankful to have those resources for sure, because you
Amazing.
start to feel a little bit when you've been denied by so many doctors over and over and over again, you start to feel a little bit like, you know, am I crazy? I don't know.
Right.
You know, are the other people seeing this? So I think that's what was really so important, especially because my husband wasn't around to see the day to day. So at that time, before we moved our business up this way, it was very difficult for me to describe to him what was going on. Of course, you know, he was like on board with whatever I felt was the right thing for our children. Like, go ahead and go do that. That's fine. Even though we were pouring out enormous amounts of money, but had we not had that kind of relationship, I could see where, you know, that could really be
get ugly quick. Yeah, that could really get dicey.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an emotional roller coaster, no matter how you slice it. And I think that it's that way when you're dealing with any kind of major medical condition or major changes in your home. But lucky enough, we have a strong home foundation. We've been married 13 years, known each other for over 23. Like, we've known each other since we were kids. So, you know, there was that period, though, where he didn't fully understand. Because he wasn't in it with me consistently. So. Yeah,
I get it. Yeah, that's understandable. I mean, it's hard, but it's understandable. It just takes a little more time. But so being that you've known each other that long and you've been married that long, you've seen the ups and downs. You've been through a lot with all of what's been going on with all of your children. How day to day, how do you find hope?
There's always hope. There's always hope. I think.
I agree.
I think that, and this is after many sleepless nights. So I know that there are some people that are going to be watching this going, it does get better. You know, you have to just persist. It does get better. There were really, really rough years, and truthfully, a lack of support in many cases. And I think that when stuff hits the fan, you realize, you know, who's on your team and who's there to support you. And especially when people can't see it, it's not like a label that people see, understand, and, you know, recognize with, like, you know, I remember saying to myself some days, it's like, oh, you know, if this was just labeled autism, I feel like everybody would just be on board and understand. Or if this was just labeled cancer, everybody would be on board and understand. So there was definitely people that were in our lives then that aren't really now. And that's okay, because as a parent, that's first. My kids are first. My focus is their healing, and, you know, they're still young. They're not 18 or above. They're not adults. They're, you know, so as much as I love all the work that I do, you know, we've been entrepreneurs forever. Everything stopped and I was in survival mode. And it was like, you're either in our boat and rowing with us, or you're not. And I don't have any time or energy to explain this to you, but, you know, if you're truly here for us, you know, then you are. And if you're not, you're not. And that's okay. And we just have to keep rowing, right?
Maybe we'll catch you on the way back, you know?
I get it. It's hard for people not in it to understand, but we try really hard to focus on lifestyle and our goals, short-term, long-term. And, you know, our goal for a long time was farm space. And we luckily have recently purchased some land in West Virginia, and that's where we're going to be moving in the spring. We're really, really excited for it. I feel like all around, it's kind of come full circle in a weird way. Like we wanted it for the space, the lifestyle. And as the years went on, it like was more and more fitting for our work, for our job, like all the things that we want to strive for in our work. You know, we have gotten involved with like veteran housing and things like that. So, you know, just having more space, and we do have a love for animals. And we have rescue horses that are incredible and have played a huge part in, I think, all of our healing.
I bet.
So just to have that and have them like right in the backyard every day for the kids, you know, the healthy diet, all of that, to be able to focus on those things and have the space for that. I think that keeps us going and motivated for sure. Like that,
100%.
you said hope, that drives us. Like we've been waiting for this moment and I feel like we're almost there. But truly, I feel like, especially for my older son, that is going to be such a great experience for him and just a healthy setting for him in general.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that. That is, you know, my sister had a similar experience. They live in Oregon, and they've been, you know, they just got into a housing, like a house on acreage with all the tons of space around them. And it was like 15 years in the making. So she could relate. She could, you know, and now they've got the goats and the chickens and all the different things and there's room to spread out. And so, yeah, she would, if you were talking to her right now, she'd be like, yes, I'm so glad you're there. It's so worth it. You know, because sometimes it takes a while, you know, but well,
for sure, many setbacks, and I feel like people can relate to that. You know, life isn't always in that straight line direction like you think it's going to be. We've had many detours, but as long as you keep that goal in mind, you know, and really the focus of it for us is a healthier lifestyle for the kids. So we're excited.
Totally. I love it. That's gonna help so much with that too, having all that space to perpetuate that. So that's phenomenal. So how can people, one more time, we've had the link tree going across the bottom here. Just to shout out one more time, how can people most easily get a hold of you?
Yeah. So through that link tree, all my social media is there, my email. You know, if you want to follow our journey with the homesteading, we're on YouTube. We have a few social media platforms just for New Heights Homestead, but we're on YouTube. We post a lot there. And you know, any platform you use is totally fine to connect with me. Easiest might be email, and that is also just through my link tree.
And if anybody wants to explore the idea of maybe fundraising for their nonprofit through One Hope, that is another good place to go to the link tree and reach out.
Right there.
Yep. So amazing. I love it. I love what you're doing. And I mean, I wish we had 2 hours, because I know we could keep going, but we don't. So, so we're, unfortunately we're about out of time, but, thank you, Stephanie, so much for being here and for being, real about your story, just putting it out there. Cause I feel like with what you were talking about, there's probably so many parents out there that are going right now, they're scratching their head going, wait a second, maybe we should be
every parent knows someone in their child's school who has pandas or pans.
Yeah. You
it's
just
at
don't know
least
it, maybe.
200. Yeah. So definitely share the message. You might be able to help another family get to resources 100%. More quickly.
Yeah. And anybody watching this, you know, share it far and wide on social media, because this is something that is, I'm guessing it's probably one of those things that people maybe, I mean, they probably they have it, but they just don't know what it is, you know, maybe, and they need that awareness. So that's huge. So, but thank you, Stephanie. I so appreciate you being here.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. That was cool. I love doing shows like that, because sometimes you just got to get the word out, man, you know, and you got to get the word out about something that's important, and especially something that's got different, you know, something that looks, there's a lot of conditions that have very similar symptoms, right? So I want to make sure that we get this out there so that people can nail it down and figure it out, so that they can get on that road to making it better and making their life better around it. So as always, if anybody knows of anybody that would be an amazing guest, I love sharing their stories on this show. So reach out to us. We're on Facebook, probably is the easiest place, or Invisible Condition at e360.com. Invisible Condition at e360tv.com. Can't believe I did that. Anyway, have an amazing day. I can't wait to see you at the next show. And yeah, we'll see you next time.